So here's a movie I never thought we'd talk about on this channel. Street Fighter 2, the animated movie. Or Street Fighter 2, the movie. From the 90s. Not the live action one. This is an animated Street Fighter movie. I think it's standalone. I didn't do that much research going into watching this. I just saw this is the one that is an older anime, and that's what I was in the mood for. So let's watch it. Here's the thing about my relationship to Street Fighter. I don't know anything about Street Fighter lore. When it comes to fighting games, I know more about Mortal Kombat, and that's it. Like, I could tell you the plot of Mortal Kombat if somebody asked me. I don't know anything about Street Fighter. I could vaguely tell you they fight on a street. Like, they go around the world and they fight on streets, and anybody can be a street fighter, and they're all like a designated class of street fighter, and there's like a bad guy who wants to see them fight or something. Here's how little I know about Street Fighter. I thought Guile was the bad guy. I thought the big blonde military guy was the evil because he looks like that. Why does he look like that? Very strange to me. I knew they were from around the world. That's it. But what I do like, if you can't tell by the things behind me, is I like action figures. And currently, there's a company that owns the license to Street Fighter called Jada Toys, and they're making incredible action figures for a very reasonable price. I am, at the point of this video, up to date on like the main releases of the Street Fighter Jada Toys line, but I have never played a single Street Fighter game. I just know the characters through the toys, and I love these toys a lot. So I'm like, let's see something from that world that I can talk about. So I went to the animated one because I figured that's a better distillation of what these characters represent than the live action movie. Isn't it kind of crazy that these fighting games blew up in like the arcades, and then they made movies of them in the 90s, and the movies were okay? Street Fighter's getting like another live action movie, right? Like, I think we're doing that. Somebody's doing it. I know those guys that did Talk to Me were attached to it for a while. I think they're still making the Street Fighter movie. Nonetheless, this is an anime from the 90s, based on the second game, so it's all of the classic characters that I know from the toy line. That's right, it's one of those. There is kind of a plot to this movie. It's more or less just like 3 separate storylines, which I'm not complaining about. The first one is Ryu. He opens up the movie fighting Sagat, and then he's like, well, I beat up a big bad guy. I'm going to go travel the world and train. That's it. And that's fun. Like, that's what I want to see. It's called Street Fighter. Let's see them fighting on the streets, you know? And we do that. We see Ryu travel the world fighting people. There is like some flashbacks to him training with Ken when they were younger, like setting off like both of them going on their stories. Ken is like the other central character in this. He's off in America, living it up, driving a fast car, kissing a hot blonde babe, having the time of his life. He gets into like one major fight with T-Hawk kind of towards the middle, and then Ken's journey is just like, I don't know, just having fun in here, which makes sense to me. So let's talk about like the big bad of what's going on here. There's a man called Bison. He's got a couple people under his command. Sagat, Balrog, and Vega. And what he's trying to do is like take over the world through street fighting. So he wants to find the best street fighters and use his magic or whatever to corrupt them so they're evil versions of themselves, and he can use them to fight other street fighters and take over the world. Interpol has a problem with that, so that gets Gammy and Chun-Li involved because he does kind of take over Gammy's brain. And then they team up with like the US military, so Guile gets involved, but then neither of the female characters get anything to do. Perhaps my main criticism with this movie is it's obvious what they're doing here because it's based on a fighting game that has 2 female characters. Gammy is in one scene where she's brainwashed by the villain and then doesn't show up. And then Chun-Li is in it for a bit, object of affection, has one really good fight sequence with Vega where she is, in like a nightgown with some underclothes showing. She is naked in the film, gets brutally beaten up. The only character who's hospitalized from like the fight, that's like our good character, and then just goes to the hospital and is there for the rest of the movie till she wakes up and hugs Guile for winning. It's very annoying because if I had to sit here and tell you who my favorite character in this franchise is, it's probably Chun-Li. I like her design the most. I like the way she behaves in this movie a lot too, until she is in a hospital bed and Guile's like, "Don't worry, kid, I'll save you." Speaking of which, not knowing anything about Guile, I like that he was just kind of like Top Gun Mavericking his way through everything. He like lands a plane on a Navy base and he's like, "I'll work for you, kid, but under my rules." And then the rest of the movie is him like running down hallways with his big muscles or driving a fast car. A lot of driving of fast cars in here. That's pretty cool. The animation's pretty fluid, you know, like it looks good for like what a fighting game should look like. I think the dub I listened to is definitely like a 90s dub where everything's extreme and techno, but there's some good music added to this dub. You can watch any copy of this just stripped onto YouTube. It's all fine. No one's going to worry about any of that going on. So that's pretty interesting. And yeah, the fighting looks good. I don't know what I'd say my favorite fight of the whole piece was. I liked everything, like I said, of Chun-Li and Vega. Vega character, I don't know anything about. Not a fan. Wasn't really impressed with him. That was the most bloody fight and maybe the most like creative and choreographed in interesting ways. But I guess like the fight, you know, I'll say this. I like the fight with Dalsim and Honda. Those are both characters I think are really cool creatively, and you can look at some fun stuff there. This type of game and this type of universe can really fall trap to like cultural stereotype. I don't think it does, but you know, the mystic characters like an old Indian guy and you know, the fat crazy one's a sumo wrestler, and it could happen. But I like both those characters. I think they were pretty interesting, and as the game series progresses, I'm pretty sure they have like more development and stuff. This is Street Fighter 2, so it's not like we have to do crazy stuff with them. I don't know, just kind of interesting. And then, yeah, it's just kind of Ryu going around the world fighting people and learning about, like, people he can beat up. He fights Fei Long at the beginning of the film, too. And I really liked Fei Long. I don't know anything about that character aside from the toy. It's the Bruce Lee character, so he was doing, like, a Bruce Lee thing. I really like that he gets beaten up, and he's like, "You're not bad, kid. You're the one that, like, fought, like, Sagat earlier. Good for you. Go on your merry way. You have Bruce Lee's approval to continue being this generation's martial arts guy." That's essentially that. What other characters do we run into in this? We have DJ, who I don't know anything about DJ, but I guess he's like a musically based character. He like is a DJ and then gets into like a fight kind of. So there's like these cyborg or cybernetic characters that are being controlled by M. Bison that show up sporadically, tracking like tough street fighters, and Chun-Li and Guile take down a few. Ryu kind of runs into a few. They're trying to get Ryu, but then they settle for Ken because he's easier to obtain, because of course he is. He's like living the high life in America being a blonde baddie. It kind of just turns into they get control of Ken. They corrupt Ken into an evil version, and then all of our characters have a big fight at the end. And by all our characters, I mean it's Ryu and Honda and Guile fighting Bison, Evil Ken, and Balrog, because I think everyone else is like dispatched at that point, or just they showed up, they had their sequence, they left. Oh yeah, Zangief and Blanca are in like 2 seconds of this movie. I know those characters, kind of. What was that? What were they doing in like a circus? That was weird. That was so specific. I'm sure like they matter more in other storylines. 2 characters I don't know anything about. Is Zangief a bad guy? I feel like they'd make him a bad guy, but I also think he could be a hero, because I thought Guile was a bad guy. Maybe Zangief is a good guy. Blanca's a bad guy because he's green. Right? That's what's going on. And yeah, then Ryu has to fight his brother, quote unquote brother, in Ken, and they're going to remember who you are out of like this, mind whammy, and you'll wake up and be a better guy. And that's what they do. And they do like their combined Hadouken or Shadouken. I don't know. I don't know the lore. I don't know the names. I just know what I saw in this movie. And that's what happens. They beat M. Bison with the power of friendship. Pretty cool. Chun-Li wakes up in the hospital and she's like, yeah, I'm okay. All the bad guys are defeated, living on to fight another day on the street. No problem with this whatsoever. Again, it's colorful characters from across the world in an anime about characters that fight. I like the designs. There isn't a single design I think is bad. They're sometimes culturally appropriated, but what else are you going to do? This character's Native American. His name should be Tomahawk, right? Like, that is something I'm not against. Now, I don't know too much about the lore of this world or anything. Is there a character from Canada? If there is, can you please tell me who the Canadian character is from Canada? If not, while I was watching this, because I'm Canadian, I was trying to think of what would be the representative of Canada. I came up with a guy who's got the colors of a Mountie, one of the mounted police, and maybe his name's Hudson or something, like Hudson Bay, the the Bay of Hudson and stuff. That's what I was kind of thinking of. Or you could do an indigenous character who's maybe connected to a bear or a moose or something like that. That's where I was going for. I don't know. If there is one, please let me know. If not, let me know what you think a Canadian Street Fighter character should do or look like. Yeah, so they just beat up M. Bison, and the movie ends with Ken getting into a hot car with his hot girlfriend and saying hey Ryu, see you in the next game, buddy boy, later. And then Ryu just walking down the street, having learned his power, is still powerful and whatnot. It's exciting. It's fun. The action's cool. The character designs are all really exciting. There's some I like more than others. I like Dalsim and Fei Long. I think those look cool. Sagat doesn't do it for me. And Guile, I think, is just insane. I didn't think he was a good guy. Again, crazy muscular American should not be the hero of the story. Also, this is going to sound stupid. I didn't know Ryu was Japanese. I'm so sorry for saying that. I didn't know. It makes sense, though, because his colors are white and red. But I thought he was, just an American like Ken. But, what do I know? I'm learning stuff about this game because I got the toys, and that's all you want. Street Fighter 2, the animated movie. I had fun with it. Not the best thing in the world. We've talked about better anime. I think it's actually the worst anime we've talked about in Movie Tales, but I still enjoyed my time. So, folks, that is going to do it for this episode of Dynamic Tales. Thank you all for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. As always, you can check me out on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. And, of course, I will catch you in the next one. Have fun. Stay safe. Good luck.